Joining me now, Deroy Murdock, Mark Serrano, and Steven Camarota. Mark, let me start with you. Essentially, what we're seeing is that the Trump administration is saying we're going to enforce the laws, and yet it's coming across as so controversial.
Charles, let's put this into its proper context. What these orders, and if you look at them carefully, what these orders actually disprove is the notion that this administration is sending jackbooted thugs across the country to round up illegal criminal aliens and rip families apart. It's just not true. These orders do something very underwhelming. It's that they enforce existing law, which is something very novel over the past 8 years. It's very, very simple. They're going to focus first on criminal illegal aliens and root them right out of our communities and kick them back across the border. There is tremendous support across this country for that move. So it's a very underwhelming move. It's simply applying the existing law, Charles.
You know, Stephen, I'm looking at, some of the articles today, and some folks have a problem with the guidelines focusing on people who abuse public benefits, folks driving without a license, and things like that. Do you see anything wrong with these? I mean, again, we're talking about breaking the law when you came into the country uninvited, and then compounding it with additional things, no matter what they are.
Yeah, basically, under the Obama administration, they basically announced that illegal immigrants didn't have to worry at all about deportation unless they were in a very narrowly focused group of violent criminals. What this basically says is all illegal immigrants are subject to deportation, though we will be focusing on the most violent, except for one group, that is those who came as children. So basically what this says is the immigration law is back in business. Things have been so laxed for so long. Remember, we have nearly 1 million people who've been ordered deported by an immigration judge already who never left. We never followed up on it. And that's sort of one of the places they're going to start first. You know,
according to the Migration Policy Institute, which, by the way, is a left-leaning organization, there are 1.9 million deportable immigrants with criminal records, Deroy. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Well, there is. Remember, these people are not being taken from jail across the border. These people are out running loose on the streets. And so these people, many of them are in this catch-and-release situation where they catch them doing a crime. They say, all right, come back in 90 days. They don't come back. So these people are running around, and who knows what they're doing, who knows what they might do next. So this is a matter of basic public safety. I don't think there's anything crazy or extreme or obnoxious about this. This is about getting people off the streets and out of this country who are, A, here illegally, and B, have done things to harm Americans and may do further harm in the future. We want to stop that before it happens.
Of course, Sean Spicer today, Mark, took great pains to say, listen, it's pretty obvious we're going to focus on the hard criminal element. There are obviously a lot of them, perhaps as much as 2 million, according to Left-Leaning Institute. But, you know, there's always the question of, hey, what about the housekeeper, you know, who came here illegally? And some would argue, hey, this person probably had to forge some working papers, may have had to give someone's social security number, may be driving without a license. There are other things that can snare people in this net as well. Are you okay with the idea that perhaps they have to go as well?
It's not going to happen, Charles. I mean, all of that is just political posturing by the far left. They're trying to pinpoint these modest little cases where someone might have gotten caught up. It's a complete mischaracterization of the justice that's being employed right now. Look, Donald Trump cares about the Kate Steinleys of America. If these orders had been put in place 2 years ago by Barack Obama, would Kate Steinle still be alive today? I think she would, which is why we also have to take these orders to the sanctuary cities. That's where Jeff Sessions has got to come in and deal with these states and these cities that are creating sanctuary for criminal, illegal aliens. People who should be rounded up, have no place in this country, and are going to harm the next Kate Steinle. That's what we're trying to avoid, Charles. So I'm not too concerned about people who get caught up, because that's not the direction of these orders. These orders clearly place a priority on those who have been charged or convicted of serious violent crimes.
Right. And, you know, Stephen, unfortunately, there's almost a daily example of a Kate Steinle situation, one just occurring in Denver where an illegal immigrant with a criminal record was allowed to go free and may have killed someone, certainly was apprehended for murder. There's a Harris poll out that says there's 80% of people support the idea that these these sanctuary cities should be handing over these illegal immigrants who are arrested for crimes So, Stephen, is this now setting up the ultimate showdown, the one that we know is going to happen sooner or later, and the one where the federal government's going to have to go into these major cities and enforce law?
Yeah, let's remind your listeners. Basically what happens is an illegal immigrant gets arrested by a local authority, is in the jail. The immigration authorities are notified. They look at the person's records, fingerprints, and say, hey, this is someone previously deported. Hey, this is someone here illegally. They just ask that local city or county to hold the person for 2 days at most, a day usually, and the actual jurisdiction policy is no. 17,000 times that's happened recently where they said, no, we're not going to hold him, and a lot of those individuals, perhaps half, had gone on then to commit another crime. So what we're going to see probably is a real confrontation with these cities that are defying the law, they're encouraging illegal immigration, and I hope the administration gets tough with them. It's certainly politically popular, and it just makes so much sense.
You know, Deroy, we had that fake news story last week of about 100,000 National Guardsmen being out there. Most experts say even with 10,000 additional enforcement officers, the workload is going to be so enormous that they're going to need help. They're going to need local authorities to pitch in and do their part. Otherwise, you know, the real violent element are still going to run free. And by the way, there are pox on all of society, especially the immigrant society itself, where they typically live.
Well, absolutely. You've got mayors who are literally defying federal law. They're breaking federal law by not assisting in handing these people over. And as you say, a lot of these people get run loose, they get free, they commit more crime, more mayhem, more murder. And this isn't good for the constituents of people like Rahm Emanuel in Chicago and other mayors in San Francisco and places like this. And it certainly makes other aliens, illegal aliens, and legal immigrants look bad when these other people commit crimes. And
did you see the press conference with Spicer today?
A little bit of it. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where they were just pounding them left and right and left and right. And, you know, to the point Mark made, obviously with this sort of situation where you're talking literally millions of people, there are going to be some incidents that can be blown out of proportion with the mainstream media. You think that's going to happen?
Oh, of course. I mean, they'll always find one person and say, oh, this poor person was just, you know, a gardener, and this person was booted out, and his kids are left behind, and their family's torn apart. And the left even goes further than that. They try to conflate the fight against illegal aliens with immigration in general.
Right.
And they say, oh, the Trump's against immigrants. No, I think he's always said repeatedly he's for legal immigration. You can do what my mom and dad did, which is you go to the embassy in San Jose, Costa Rica, you fill out the paperwork, you get your visa, and then you come here.
Well, and look what the left
that's how
does,
it should be
Charles.
done. Come to America.
They give them a label of dreamers. I mean, that's to mislead the public.
And what a sweet word that is. Oh, dreamers. Isn't that lovely?
Exactly. That's completely misleading and misguiding, and it takes the emphasis away from the
Hey, Mark, though, we've only got a few seconds. Let me ask you, what happens one day if ICE goes to someone's house and the little kid runs out the back door and gets hit by a car and someone catches that on a camera phone? I mean, could you? I mean, something. I mean, you hate to think about things like that, but as these officers go to work and do their job, something bad is going to happen, and you know that it's going to be the #1 story in the country.
Well, sure, Charles, but look, you know, a nation of laws is not guided by emotion. I mean, that would be a great tragedy if that were to take place, and we'd have to put some reforms in place if it does. But it doesn't take away from the fact that people are here illegal, and we've got to take out the most heinous among them. Let's secure the border. My goodness, put it on the terms of pure economics, Charles. For a cost of $21 billion, we now know we'll have a savings over 10 years of $64 billion. So from an economic standpoint, from
we're actually going to cover it even more in depth later on from an economic angle. But first and foremost, keeping everyone safe and getting rid of the criminals is smart stuff to do. And I think ultimately everyone's going to know that and appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Job one.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
President Trump